The weirdest part? I wasn't even supposed to be there. I only went back because I forgot my damn phone in the lounge. There I was, 20 minutes after I said goodnight to everyone at the company merger party, already halfway down the parking garage when I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I cursed, turned around, walked all the way back in through the kitchen exit like some caterer who'd lost a tray of shrimp, and slipped into the side hallway leading to the VIP lounge. That's when I saw them. Not doing anything. Not yet. But you could tell. You always can, can't you? The lights were dimmed lower than before. The music had softened into some low, lazy jazz. And there she was, my wife, Eden, standing way too close to a guy in a maroon velvet blazer who definitely wasn't from accounting. I know everyone in accounting. This guy didn't belong. His hand was holding a glass of champagne, but his eyes were fixed on her in that way men look when they think no one's watching. And her lipstick? She never wore red. It was always soft pink or some muted shade called sunset orchid or whatever nonsense name Sephora came up with. But this was bold, loud, freshly reapplied. I froze. Not behind a plant or anything like in the movies. I just stood there like an idiot, halfway through the curtain entrance, half lit like a horror movie extra. They didn't even notice me. That made it worse. She laughed, tossed her hair over her shoulder the way she used to when she wanted something. He leaned in, said something in her ear. She didn't pull back. I wanted to believe it was innocent. I really did. But then I heard her say it. Not to him. To a colleague walking past. Oh, him? He's just a friend. There it was. That line. That cursed, overused, reality-breaking line. The same line I'd heard a year ago when she added Dylan from HR on Instagram. The same line she said when I found a second toothbrush in her gym bag. He's just a friend. He crashed after spin class. That phrase has ended more marriages than affairs themselves. I stepped back before they could see me, heart pounding like I'd stolen something. My own dignity, probably. On the way out, I didn't even bother grabbing my phone. I didn't even care. I sat in my car in the empty lot, keys in hand, staring at my own reflection in the rearview mirror. My tie felt like a noose. My wedding ring suddenly felt too tight. And right then and there, I made two decisions. I was quitting that job. I was never going back to her. I haven't told anyone yet. I haven't packed a bag. I haven't said a single word. But I'm already gone. Wait till you hear what happened the next morning. I thought that night was bad. I had no idea what she was planning. The next morning, she was humming in the kitchen. Humming. Like she'd had a peaceful night's sleep. Like she wasn't leaning into some velvet blazer-wearing stranger less than 12 hours ago. I stood in the hallway, just watching her for a second. She was pouring coffee, barefoot, messy bun, wearing one of my old t-shirts like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't already decided I was done. She saw me and smiled. "Morning, babe," she said, cheerful, like a sitcom wife. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mouth opened, but all I could manage was a dry nod and a half-hearted grunt. I walked past her, grabbed a banana off the counter, and sat at the table trying to stop my hand from shaking. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and just pretended not to. I wanted to ask her about the guy. I wanted to say, what the hell was that last night? But instead, I asked, do you know where my laptop charger is? Like a coward. Like an idiot. She answered without looking up from her coffee. Probably in your office, under the desk. Oh, by the way, she added. Marcus, remember Marcus? From the event? He might stop by later. I told him I'd show him the numbers you used for the quarterlies, since you're better with data. Marcus. So that was his name. The velvet guy had a name. And now he had an invitation to my house. I stared at her. Why would you do that? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked genuinely confused, like I was the one acting strange. What? He's just a friend. He was really impressed with your work. There it was again. That line. Like it was her shield, her go-to spell to deflect suspicion. I could feel my ears burning. I didn't say another word. I just stood up, walked into the home office, and closed the door behind me. That's when I opened my email. I stared at the top of the screen where the company's logo sat, mocking me like it always had. I wasn't going to give them 2 weeks' notice. I wasn't even going to wait for the next paycheck. I typed it all out. Effective immediately. No reasons. No long goodbye. Just closure. Then I opened a blank Word document. Not for work. For me. And I started listing every time she'd said that phrase. He's just a friend. I had 5 entries by the time I got to last night. 5 different guys. 5 different excuses. 5 different cracks I'd plastered over because I didn't want to believe I was married to someone who treated me like a backup plan. She knocked on the door mid-morning. "Hey, I'm heading to the store. Need anything?" Silence, I whispered. She didn't hear me, or didn't want to. I said louder, "No, I'm good." The front door closed, and I heard her car pull out of the driveway, and I knew what I had to do. I opened my closet, pulled out the old duffel bag I used during our first road trip together, back when things felt real. I packed only what I needed: clothes, toiletries, passport. Left the rest. I wasn't taking furniture. I wasn't taking memories. I wasn't taking guilt. But before I left, I did one thing I'm not proud of. I opened her laptop. I knew the password, my name, all lowercase. She never changed it. I opened her messages. Not proud, like I said, but desperate men do desperate things. The top conversation? Marcus. Of course. I clicked. And I swear, my heart stopped. What I saw in that thread didn't just confirm my suspicions. It shattered whatever pieces of denial I had left. Screenshots, plans, hotel names, and a line that made me sit down, dizzy. "Curtis is too spineless to ever leave. He's comfortable. Let him rot." She sent that. About me. I didn't rot. I zipped the bag, left the ring on the keyboard, and walked out without locking the door. She wouldn't have called the cops. She wouldn't have noticed for hours. But when she did, she'd realized the one thing she never expected to happen had already begun. I was finally gone. And Marcus? He was about to find out I wasn't as spineless as they both thought. I hadn't even driven 10 minutes before my phone started buzzing on the passenger seat. I didn't pick it up. I already knew who it was. Eden never called that fast unless something had gone wrong, really wrong. The buzzing stopped. Then started again. Then again. By the 4th call, my chest felt tight, but I kept my eyes on the road like staring at asphalt could keep my life from swerving off a cliff. I pulled into a gas station I'd never been to before. One of those places with flickering lights and a soda machine that sounds like it's dying. I sat there for a full minute before finally answering. I didn't say hello. "Where are you?" she asked, her voice sharp but shaky, like she was trying to stay in control and failing. I said nothing. Silence has weight when you finally let it. She filled it immediately. "Curtis, this isn't funny. My laptop, my ring, what is going on?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I was going to cry, and I was tired of crying alone. I told her I'd resigned. Told her I wasn't coming back. Told her I knew about Marcus. There was a pause on the line, long enough for me to hear her breathing change. That's when the anger came. She accused me of invading her privacy, of overreacting, of throwing away everything over nothing. Nothing. That word again. She said it like it was reasonable, like I was the unstable one. Then she said something that flipped a switch in my head. "You humiliated me," she snapped. "You disappearing like that? Do you have any idea how that makes me look at work?" At work. Not at home. Not in our marriage. At work. I hung up without warning. Just pressed the red button and tossed the phone onto the seat. My hands were shaking so bad I spilled coffee all over my jeans when I tried to take a sip. I sat there, soaked, humiliated, and weirdly calm all at once. That's when I realized something awful and freeing at the same time. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared of losing control. I checked into a cheap motel off the highway. No name brand, no loyalty points. Just a bed, a shower, and curtains that didn't quite close. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment I'd swallowed my feelings to keep the peace. Every time I'd apologized for things I didn't do. Every time I'd been told I was too sensitive, too quiet, too easy. I'd built my whole identity around being low maintenance, and somehow that turned me into someone disposable. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Not Eden this time. A number I didn't recognize. I ignored it. Then it texted. "Curtis, it's Marcus. We need to talk." I felt sick. Of all the people I wanted to hear from, he was at the bottom of the list. I didn't respond. 30 seconds later, another message came through. "She's not telling you the whole story." That did it. My heart started racing again, like I was back in that lounge, watching her laugh with him. I typed back one sentence before I could talk myself out of it. "Then tell it." The reply took longer this time. When it finally came, it was longer than a text should ever be. He said they'd been emotionally close for months. Said it started as venting, then late nights, then drinks after work. He claimed nothing physical had happened yet, which somehow made it worse. Like they'd been circling the knife for fun. He admitted she told him I'd never leave, that I was predictable, safe, easy to manage. He said she liked the attention, liked feeling admired without consequences. And then came the part that made my stomach drop. She told me you were planning to quit anyway, that you hated your job and were looking for an excuse. That was a lie. A clean, convenient lie she'd handed him to make herself look less cruel. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. So not only had she betrayed me, she'd rewritten me, turned me into a character who deserved it. I didn't reply. I turned the phone off completely and sat in the dark. Somewhere between the buzzing silence and the hum of the air conditioner, I realized this wasn't just about leaving a marriage. This was about taking my life back from someone who'd been quietly dismantling it piece by piece. I didn't know where I was going yet. I didn't know how ugly this was going to get. But I knew one thing for sure. She was about to find out what happens when the man you underestimate finally stops explaining himself. And that was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to 27 missed calls and a flurry of messages. Most were from Eden, a few from mutual friends, one from her mom, which I didn't even open. But what really caught my eye was the voicemail she'd left just after 2 a.m. I didn't want to listen to it. I really didn't. But curiosity always has sharp little claws, and it dug right in. She was crying, or at least trying to sound like she was. Curtis, please. I don't know where you are, but this is ridiculous. Okay. You're making a scene. You're making this into something it's not. We need to talk. You can't just disappear. I mean, do you really want to throw everything away over some misunderstanding? Over Marcus? Misunderstanding. That word actually made me laugh. I rewound that part and played it again just to hear how ridiculous it sounded coming out of her mouth. She made it sound like I'd misread a parking sign, not caught her practically whispering into another man's mouth. I was sitting on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the cracked wall paint, when I realized something truly bizarre. Eden didn't think I'd actually leave. Not really. She thought I was sulking, that I'd come crawling back like I always did, that I'd apologize for being too sensitive, and we'd go back to normal, which for her meant, I do whatever I want, and Curtis absorbs it like a sponge. But I wasn't that version of myself anymore. Something had snapped. Quietly, cleanly. And it wasn't rage. It was clarity. For the first time in years, I wasn't asking myself what she needed. I was asking what I deserved. And what I deserved sure as hell wasn't being called an emotional burden behind my back. Still, I couldn't stop replaying everything she'd said over the past few months. All the subtle digs. All the times she'd called Marcus a refreshing change at work. All the jokes at my expense in front of her coworkers. All the little comments like, not everyone wants a quiet life, Curtis. She said that one when I suggested we skip a weekend party to relax at home. She wanted loud. She wanted thrilling. She wanted danger in a cocktail glass and secrets in hotel elevators. I wanted to be seen. There was only one way to make her understand that this wasn't just a tantrum. This wasn't a bluff. I pulled out my laptop, logged into our joint banking app, and calmly began separating our finances. I didn't wipe the account. I'm not cruel. But I moved what I'd earned, what she hadn't touched, into my personal savings. She'd always rolled her eyes when I insisted on keeping a side account, just in case. Well, here we were. By noon, I had a new phone plan, a temporary forwarding address, and a list of lawyers I'd found online while eating vending machine trail mix. And still, she was texting. The last message I read before turning the phone off again. Just 6 words. You're not strong enough to leave. That did it. I swear, my hand stopped shaking right then and there. She thought she still had power over me. She had no idea. 3 nights after I disappeared, I got an invitation. Not from Eden. Not from anyone who even knew she existed. It was from my old manager, Peter, the only person in that entire company who ever treated me like a human being instead of a walking spreadsheet. He was throwing a small gathering, a quiet, post-merger detox, as he put it, for a few trusted ex-colleagues who had either quit, been pushed out, or were smart enough to escape the mess on their own terms. I almost didn't go, but then I thought, why not? I hadn't said a word publicly. No social media drama. No long emails. I just vanished. But if Eden was still telling people I was having a mental episode or processing some insecurities, which I guarantee she was, then my face showing up in a place she didn't expect, that would say more than any post or confrontation ever could. The party was in a private rooftop lounge downtown. Casual, low-lit, nothing flashy. I wore jeans and a button-down. Didn't shave. I wanted to look like myself, not the version of me she used to dress up like a doll for corporate functions. And when I walked in, I swear, the room shifted. People didn't expect to see me. A few smiled genuinely. Others gave that awkward half-nod you get when someone's name has been floating through office gossip threads for days. I didn't care. I was there for me. And for the first time in a while, I felt something close to calm. And then, halfway through my second drink, I heard her laugh. I turned slowly. I don't know why I was surprised. She hadn't been invited. But Eden always had a way of slipping into spaces she didn't belong and making herself the center of them. She was standing near the balcony, wearing the same red lipstick I'd seen that night. But this time, it didn't catch me off guard. This time, it looked like armor. She hadn't seen me yet. She was talking to some guy, definitely not Marcus, by the way, and she was already doing the flirty shoulder touch move. My stomach didn't twist this time. It felt more like watching someone I used to know from a distance. A stranger who had my old address. And then her eyes found me. The smile dropped immediately. I didn't look away. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk. I just raised my glass slightly and held her gaze for a few seconds. She took a step toward me, then another, and then as she stopped, her expression flickered. First surprise, then something I couldn't quite name. Anger? Shame? Panic? I didn't give her a chance to figure it out. I turned my back, walked toward Peter, and struck up a conversation like nothing had happened. From the corner of my eye, I saw her standing there, frozen, unsure whether to chase me or flee. It was the first time I'd ever seen her unsure of herself. The power shift was real, and I didn't even have to say a word. I left the party an hour later. Quietly. No drama. No scene. But the next morning, I got a new text from her. Was that supposed to hurt me? She was unraveling. I didn't respond, because she had no idea what was coming next. It started raining just as I stepped out of the cafe. One of those sudden cold December showers that soaks your collar in seconds and makes every car sound louder. I pulled my coat tighter and was halfway to my car when I saw her. Eden, standing there across the street like she'd been waiting for the perfect moment to ruin the day. I froze, heart thudding, mind racing with every worst-case scenario. She wasn't supposed to know where I was. I hadn't used my real name at the motel, hadn't posted anything online, hadn't even told the one friend I still trusted where I was staying. But somehow she'd found me. And she was dressed like it was still the party. Heels, trench coat, red lipstick. Always that damn red lipstick. Only now it was smeared at the corner, like she'd reapplied it too quickly in the car mirror. She walked toward me. No umbrella. No hesitation. I need to talk to you, she said, like nothing about this was unhinged. Can we please go somewhere private? I laughed. I actually laughed, right there in the rain. Private? Like the last 10 times you needed privacy to make me feel insane. Her jaw clenched. For a second, she looked like she might scream, but she forced her voice low. Curtis, you're blowing this up. You're not thinking straight. You left everything over what? One conversation you overheard. One conversation? I stepped back, keeping my distance. You told him I'd never leave. That I was weak. That I was convenient. And that I'd rot in this life quietly while you lived yours. I didn't mishear that. You typed it, Eden. She blinked hard, like I'd just slapped her. She hadn't expected me to say it out loud. She was still trying to pretend like this was a small argument that could be patched with wine and fake apologies. I said things I didn't mean, she muttered. No, I said, voice shaking now, not with fear, but from holding back everything I wanted to yell. You said things you meant, and now you regret that I finally listened. She stepped closer again. I made a mistake, but you're not being fair either. Disappearing? Quitting your job? Acting like you're some kind of, what, hero for vanishing? Come on, Curtis. That's not you. You don't do this. You don't burn bridges. I met her eyes. Maybe I do now. And just then, right as she opened her mouth again, someone else called my name. It was Heather, a woman I'd met 2 nights ago at that post-merger party. We'd exchanged numbers. Talked since. Nothing romantic. Yet, but real. Calm. Honest. She saw me now, walking toward me, concern on her face. Eden turned her head and froze. I didn't say a word. Just let Heather catch up and ask if I was okay. I nodded. Eden's eyes flicked between us, and her entire face changed. So that's it, she snapped. You found someone else already? No, I said calmly. I found myself. She stood there in the rain, jaw twitching, eyes wide, trying to come up with something, anything, that could fix what she broke. But there wasn't a script for this moment. Not one where I didn't crawl back. I turned to Heather. Let's go. And just like that, I walked away from the woman who thought I never would. But the fallout? That still wasn't over. 2 days passed without a word from Eden. No texts, no calls, not even a silent bubble taunting me with something unsent. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd accepted that I wasn't coming back, that the version of me she used to control like a puppet was gone. But deep down, I knew her silence didn't mean peace. Eden didn't retreat. She regrouped. And sure enough, the storm hit. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got a call from HR. Not mine, hers. Her company. A woman named Sylvia left a voicemail, professional, but tense. She said it was regarding a recent incident, and that my name had come up in a formal complaint. I played the message twice, then sat in stunned silence. What the hell was she doing? I called back immediately and was put through to a conference line. There were 2 people on the other end, Sylvia and someone from legal. They told me Eden had reported me for accessing her work laptop without permission and violating her digital privacy. She'd apparently claimed I had stolen information and used it to embarrass and defame her publicly. I almost laughed again. I wanted to scream, "Are you serious?" But I didn't. Instead, I calmly explained what had actually happened, that we were married, that we shared passwords, that the laptop had always been in our shared home, and that she had never once treated it like a private device. I told them I hadn't posted anything online, hadn't made a scene, hadn't even told anyone what she wrote to Marcus. They went quiet, very quiet. After a long pause, the legal rep asked, "Do you have documentation of what you saw?" "I have screenshots," I said, "but I haven't shared them. Not with anyone. Not even her." There was another pause. Then Sylvia, her voice suddenly less cold, said, "Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne. We'll follow up if we need anything further." Click. That was it. A fake report. A last-ditch effort to drag me into chaos so she could control the narrative. I sat there at the motel desk, staring at the wall, feeling that old familiar weight pressing against my chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Exhaustion. The kind you feel when you finally realize someone never loved you the way you loved them. That evening, I got a message. Not from her. From Marcus. She tried to get me fired. I stared at the screen, stunned. He sent me a screenshot of his company email. Eden had forwarded their message thread, the same one I'd read, directly to Marcus's supervisor, claiming he had pursued her and violated professional boundaries. She threw him under the bus to protect herself, and now he was on unpaid leave while HR investigated. He finished the message with, "You were right to run. She burns everyone, not just you." And suddenly, I felt it. Something I hadn't felt in weeks. Relief. Not just because I escaped, but because I wasn't crazy. She was. Eden thought she could control everything. The story, the fallout, even my silence. She thought if she screamed loud enough, I'd fold again. But she didn't realize I wasn't standing still anymore. And the last move? That one would be mine. It's been 3 weeks since I left. 23 days since I walked out of that party, dropped my ring beside her laptop, and stopped being the man who let things slide just to keep the peace. Funny how fast your life can change when you finally say enough. After everything, after the party, the lies, the complaint, even her attempt to ruin Marcus, I thought I'd feel bitter, broken, but I don't. I feel free. I moved into a small apartment just outside the city. Nothing fancy. Exposed brick, creaky floors, and a kitchen that smells like old wood and quiet mornings. But it's mine. There's no red lipstick on the counter, no extra toothbrush that doesn't belong, no footsteps pacing the hallway while texting someone else. Just peace. Heather, yeah, the woman from the party, is still around. We've kept things light. Honest. She's not a rebound. She's a reminder that not everyone sees kindness as weakness. Some people actually value it, respect it. I never expected her to stay in touch, but she did. We've had coffee, long walks, hours of just talking without performance or pressure. No pretending, no games. She listens when I speak, and when she laughs, it doesn't feel like she's trying to prove something. It just feels real. As for Eden, the last message she sent me was a one-liner 2 days ago. "You're really not going to say anything?" And I didn't. I won't. Because the most powerful thing I've ever said to her is nothing at all. She can keep refreshing her screen, waiting for an apology, a reaction, some trace of the man she used to manipulate. But he's gone. In his place is someone who values himself enough to walk away and never look back. I started therapy. Opened my own freelance consulting business, small but growing. Turns out, when you're not constantly drained by emotional damage control, your brain can breathe again. Imagine that. So no, this isn't a story of revenge. There's no grand finale where I torch her career or post her texts online. I don't need to. She's doing a fine job burning her own house down. This is a story of escape, of clarity, of healing. And if you're reading this wondering if you're crazy, if you're the problem, if you should just wait it out and be less emotional to keep someone who keeps wounding you, don't. You deserve better. And you're not weak for wanting peace. I walked away from a woman who said I'd never have the strength. Now she's yelling into a silence that finally, doesn't belong to her.